Hello everyone, and welcome to the Farmers Supply Association Agri Report. I'm Randy Klepechka, agronomist with Farmers Supply Association. We're taping on April the 17th, and planting season's really off to a good start this year. As you can see behind me, I mean, rice is already coming up, and heard one estimate that maybe in Jackson County things were about 75% complete, and I think that's, goes for much of northeast Arkansas. So, very good condition for April 17th. A lot of times April 17th we hadn't done anything, but we've got a lot planted, a lot of it's coming up, so it's been a pretty good start planting wise. I always want to talk about pre-emerge herbicides and their importance in weed control. It has not been the best of starts for pre-emerge herbicides. We went quite a while without rain to activate those herbicides. We started planting, there was a little bit earlier, but really most of the planting started right around Easter weekend. Had a little bit planted that Friday and Saturday, and then really Monday and Tuesday after Easter is when things really blew up and got going. And just really didn't get any rain for about 10 to 11 days on some of that. Finally, I think the first rain for some people was around April the 11th. Not everybody got that, but a decent amount got that. We're in the Rimmel area right now, and they only got like 3 or 4 tenths off of that one, so really not as much as you'd like for activation. Then on April 16th, yesterday, the rain was a little more widespread in our area, so a lot of our area is in really good shape as far as moisture, getting rice up, getting herbicides activated. Now you get down in the southern part of our Farmer Supply Association footprint, I think I heard the wind only got about 2 tenths or so, so it's still not perfect, but a lot of people have really good moisture as far as getting crops submerged. We were starting to get some calls on flushing. I don't know of anybody that flushed, and concerned about these residual herbicides, but right now, most of our area is in pretty good shape as far as activation of residual herbicides and emergence of the crop. So, again, for April 17th, most of us would take it. As far as the crop, what the state it's in right now, again, a lot of it's emerging and coming through. As far as the weed situation, really things are in pretty good shape. For me talking about not getting herbicides activated, I walked a lot of fields this past week and really haven't seen any grass yet, which is, telling me that these herbicides maybe are working a little better than we thought. And of course, part of that is just, it's just now getting time to where a lot of these grasses and weeds start coming up. So that's part of it as well. But again, just fairly clean. The only exception to that, the yellow nut sedge is starting to come on and come up. If you see a green spot in the field where the rice is not up, it's usually one of two things. It's winter grass that's still out there that hasn't died off, or it's yellow nut sedge. A lot of times you'll see those little patches of yellow nut sedge in the field. So that's generally what we see in the field. So that's kind of where we're at right now, still in pretty good shape weed control wise, and getting these residuals activated should really help on that in the near future. The name of the game right now is just keep those residuals activated. I think if we can keep that happening and keep that done, then we're on our way to a good year weed control wise, especially with the grasses. What I like to see, and I've talked about this in past years, from the time the first residual is activated, I like to have another one activated in about 3 weeks, and then another one about 3 weeks after that. Generally what I do is about 2 weeks after that last one was activated, I'm looking at the forecast, looking for when are we going to get the next rain to get that next pre-emerge activated, and then I try to get that out there in front of that. So sometimes you may have to push this a little earlier than you'd like just because there's not rain in the forecast. Sometimes you can play with it a little bit later depending on what the forecast is calling for. But again, you got to get them activated for them to work. So that's the key to the whole thing. So be watching that forecast and look for those opportunities to get your next residual out there to keep those things overlapped and activated. Of course, we've got 4 general herbicides I'm talking about here: Command, Facet, Prowl, and Bolero. Remember, Command and Facet are both pre-emerging, put them out right after planting. Prowl and Bolero need to be delayed free after the rice seed has imbibed its water for germination. That way when that herbicide doesn't get absorbed into that seed if it's already absorbed the water it needs for activation. I know some people that put Prowl out there right away after planting. Some get by with it all the time. it's one of those things that it's risky, and you can pay for it if things just don't work out just right. So again, try to make that a delayed pre-application. Getting some questions right now about some of these herbicides. One is, how long will that command lay there? I said some of this command that got put out on the front end of planting lay there 10 or 11 days before it was activated with rainfall. Command is pretty stable. It's not volatile or anything really, so it'll lay there a good while. So I've got some estimates from chemical company guys, university guys, and they think that maybe we lost as much, maybe 10-15% during that 10 or 11 days. Estimates maybe as much as 25, but again, the vast majority of that should have been there when it got activated on the 11th or the 16th. So we still should be able to get a couple of weeks or so out of that, I would think, in most situations. Another question, people wanting to put Bolero out as an overlay, a herbicide overlay. They're concerned about this cool weather coming in. We've got 2 or 3 days of cool weather coming in late this week and into the weekend. So, but really that should not be a problem. Most of the concern with Bolero comes back from those post-emerge applications when you're mixing it with propanil, high pH ground and that kind of thing. That's where we've seen Bolero injury. But as far as these pre's by themselves, or maybe mixed with a prowl or facet or something like that, we really shouldn't have a big issue with the injury from Bolero on these normal situations. So don't worry about that too much. Main thing is getting that herbicide activated and get that grass control. I want to finish up talking about the annual sedges. Barnyard grass is mainly what we've been talking about up till now. Barnyard grass and annual sedges are really two of the major problems we deal with right now. Most people would consider it maybe their number one and number two, along with the bad red rye situation. So we want to try to work on these annual sedges. And again, if we can keep them from coming up, that's the best way to handle them. Again, we're talking about rice flat sedge and white margin sedge. White margin just keeps coming on and is almost becoming the predominant one in places, but we still see a lot of rice flat sedge as well. These weeds are later emerging. It's usually going to be at least late April on into May when these weeds start emerging. So if you laid a residual herbicide out back early in the planting season, late March, early April, they're probably going to be run out by the time the flat sedge starts coming up. So we need to key these flat sedge applications into a little bit later, late April and early May. The main herbicides we're talking about is Sharpen, and of course when we're talking about Sharpen, that's got to be put out before the rice comes out, because we're talking about 3 ounces of Sharpen, and you don't put 3 ounces of Sharpen on emerged rice. So this has got to be a pre-application if you're using the Sharpen for your flat sedge. Now Bolero is also very good on the flat sedges if it gets activated. So that's one that can go out post-emerge, in a mixture, maybe with prowl, or even with propanil or rice bow or something like that. But getting that rice bow or getting that Bolero out there, in that time frame can be very beneficial as well for the flat sedges. So if we try to keep those from coming up, again, Sharpen before the rice comes up, Bolero after that, and then we're looking at things like Loyant and Basagran and things like that if we don't control it pre-emerge. So let's try to avoid these situations where we're over relying on post-emerge herbicides. Hopefully we can control a lot of this stuff early. I didn't mention the Previsia, the Maxace, the Clearfield, the full page systems. I think most people are pretty familiar with those, but we'll probably talk about the Maxace and Previsia a little bit in one of our next programs, and really key in on that, because we've got some people growing using those systems for the first time this year because of seed situations and also red rice and resistant grass situations. So again, hopefully this good start will keep going, and we're probably going to do an earlier program, maybe come back in a couple of weeks or so and do another program and talk about some of these post-emerge situations. So until then, this has been Randy Kopechka with your Farmers Supply Association Agri Report.